Okay, we're going to have a look at a grammar point, which is always hell, I know that, but it's a small one. We're going to cover it pretty briefly, and then we're going to go on to something a little bit more interesting. So we've done the questions now, and we're moving on to the grammar. Now, we've said this before, in grade 11 there isn't really much grammar, just like there isn't in grade 10. What we've got is a few grammar reviews, because these books are more aimed at using the language rather than learning the rules of it. I think I agree. I think the foundations are there. I think we've got the framework now for the language. I think we really need to build on it. I don't see any value in looking at advanced grammar when we're still really learning the basics, phrases, clauses, and tenses. I mean, those are the basic things that we need so that we can master sentence structure. At this point, I mean, we've looked at references. That's where you should be pitching yourself at this point. You should be making sure that you can put out a really good, high standard, quality reference letter. That's really, really where you need to be focused, because in the next couple of years, it's what you're going to be doing. Universities, internships, or job applications. So you're about to start your real life, and to do that, you need to be able to put together a CV, a good letter, a formal introduction to yourself to a business, okay, or a professional body, come to that. So let's have a look at this quick review section on page 13. Those of you that have the book, page 13. Those of you that don't worry, I'm just going to read the text out to you. Quick revision: adverbs and adverbial phrases. Now you all know what an adverb is. It's pretty straightforward. You've got a verb is an action, and the adverb gives us more information about the action. So you can run, that's our verb. You can run quickly, that's our adverb. In simple terms, an adverbial phrase does the work of an adverb, but is at least 2 words or more. Simple as that. Adverbs are single words that modify verbs. I prefer to think of them as adding more information too. I mean, you can run, but you can run slowly or quickly. They're very, very different things. You can imagine the fat little kid at school running very slowly, out of breath, sucking on his asthma pump. That was me once. And of course, he runs slowly, or you can run fast, like the same child being chased by his PE teacher who's got a big stick with a nail sticking out of it. So adverbs are single words that modify verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. They indicate how, when, where, or why something occurs. Okay, I've kind of given that. Some adverbs end in ly. I fully recommend him. So I recommend, there's our verb, and our adverb is I fully, completely, wholeheartedly recommend him. She carried out her work diligently and efficiently. So diligent, again, we covered this before. Somebody that works very hard, covers all the details, and efficiently means that no wasted effort. As an example, a good, well set up motorcycle can be efficient. It can use a small amount of fuel to go a long amount of miles. That's efficient. I own almost exclusively motorcycles that do the opposite of that use an awful lot of petrol to do almost nothing except make a loud noise. That's because I am not the smartest man in the room. However, there are exceptions to this. He has always been a hard worker. Christine is now showing her relationship qualities as she trains a new staff member. Now, this is where adverbs become slightly different. Adverbial phrases start to kick in that are of a different kind. You know, they're still, now we are modifying the verb. We're not just using something to add information about it. We're now changing it slightly. He has always been a hard worker. He's been a hard worker. Been means, that's our verb, always been. He has always been. He has changed. It's very differently if we were to say has recently been a hard worker. If somebody's got something to prove, they might suddenly work harder. If it's something that they've always done, that's a very different character and a very different person, and we would treat them accordingly. Note that the first 2 adverbs, fully, diligently, and efficiently, are adverbs of manner, mannerisms, the way we behave. Always is an adverb of frequency, while now is an adverb of time. I think we've covered that. Fully, always, these describe the amount of time something's happened, whereas fully, diligently, and efficiently in terms of manner, just like efficiently, completely, expertly would be verbs of manner, and verbs of time, recently, distantly, something along those lines. Can you think of other adverbs of manner, time and frequency? Well, I certainly can. I hope you can. What other kind of adverbs can you recall? Adverbial phrases function like adverbs. They are groups of words without a finite verb. In simple terms, phrases and clauses are different. Phrases are a collection of words. Clauses are a collection of words that contain a subject and a verb. That's where they differ. A clause can be a verb, a phrase, but not the other way round, because it lacks the subject and the verb. Adverbial phrases function like adverbs. In other words, they can take the place of an adverb. They are a group of words without a finite verb. They often begin with a preposition that indicates the relationship between the verb, adjective or adverb and the phrase. Now, a preposition, in simple terms, is a word that tells us the relationship of one thing to another, or simply where something is in space and time. It's now, it's up there, it's down there, it's over there, yesterday, tomorrow. Gives us a relationship between the two things we're talking about. In our example, she has worked for this company for 2 years. So there we've got our verb worked, we've got our preposition for. Where has she worked? She's worked for this company. So we've got a relationship between the two things. I have been very impressed with her skills and initiative. Okay, preposition is with. Adjective, it says here, is impressed. However, yeah, very is adverb. Okay. Why would you put an adverb into that when we're trying to talk about something else? It's like the book hasn't worked out that we need to keep things simple and then build up to more complex. So instead, we just throw in the first sentence we've got. Adverbs and adverbial phrases are often used in letters and other correspondence to provide readers with more details about an action or event. For example, how an action was carried out, when or where an event occurred. Of course, that's true. I mean, we need to get away from this in this book. Nouns, verbs, adjectives and adverbs are always used in all kinds of writing, formal and informal, creative writing as well as non-fiction. So they are always going to be used, so it's up to you to have a mastery. And this is what I mean when I say clauses and phrases and tenses are probably the most important thing you need to master, because putting those together into sentences so that everything makes good cohesive sense is a key skill that will take you forward to where you need to be. So it's got an activity book exercise. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to give you a better explanation, a more detailed explanation on adverbs and adverbial phrases, and then we're going to have a look at a brief exercise before we move on, because this subject doesn't require an entire lesson. Okay. Phrases versus clauses. A phrase is simply two or more related words and is missing a subject, a verb, or both. A clause is also two or more related words, but it contains a subject and a verb. A clause can be independent, a simple sentence, or dependent, a less simple sentence. So in other words, it can stand on its own, or it can rely on other clauses to make a full sentence. A dependent clause cannot stand alone. As a sentence, it needs an independent clause in order to make sense. Okay, examples. The cleaner says she left the printer cartridge here. That's a normal adverb. She went online for more information. Adverbial phrase. Okay, makes sense so far. In the forest, many creatures snarl and growl. Adverbial phrase. The cleaner says she left the printer cartridge where she always leaves it. That's an adverbial clause. Keep pouring until I tell you to stop. Again, adverbial clause. Adverbial phrases. An adverbial phrase serves the same function in a sentence as an adverb. They modify a verb, adjective, or another adverb, but they are missing a subject, a verb, or both. The lioness crept along the grass very quietly.
The adverbial phrase very quietly modifies the verb, telling us how the lioness crept. I almost never take time off in this company. Yeah, sounds about right. The adverbial phrase almost never tells us how frequently the worker takes time off, or sleeps, or doesn't regret their decisions. A lioness. What? Was this made by a 4-year-old? An adverbial clause is a dependent clause. It has a subject and a verb, and functions as an adverb. It'll start with a subordinate conjunction, which is what makes the clause dependent. Example: the burglars sprang out of the bushes once they saw the family leave. I don't think they're burglars. Burglars don't usually spring out of the bushes. A burglar. And there are bushes. Good choice of picture. Adverbial clauses. Adverbial clauses behave in a similar way to adverbial phrases, but with the following distinctions. They contain a verb and a subject. They begin with a subordinating conjunction. Here's some examples. Independent clause: William thought he was in trouble. Adverbial clause: dependent, until he looked across the table at his mother. That makes sense. Independent clauses can basically be a sentence on their own. Think of it that way. I'm happy to come to dinner is a perfectly reasonable sentence if you promise there will be a vegetarian option. I'd go along with that. There should always be a vegetarian option. Subordinate conjunctions. An adverb clause is always introduced by a subordinating conjunction. The subordinating conjunction makes the clause dependent and links the two clauses. Here are some examples of subordinate conjunctions. Subordinate conjunctions, or fill in the blanks with the appropriate subordinating conjunctions from the box. Okay, now I didn't make this, I have no idea what's coming out. Here's a box. Oui. Something mum wrapped the presents. I prepared the labels. I guess while mum wrapped the presents. She spelled mum wrong, whoever this was. Number 2, it is typically thought of as a vegetable. An eggplant is actually a fruit. Although I start to sneeze whenever my cat walks in the room. I don't have a cat. I'm going to dance, although I wish I could just stay home. Okay. I'll wait in the car while you go inside. In the basketball, after the basketball game, we will go for pizza. I want to play outside until the sun goes down. If it is cold outside, I wear a coat. Or whenever it is cold outside, I wear a coat. Mrs. Johnson, that's American by the way, we don't like that. There should be no stop after Mrs. Mrs. Johnson made sure her will was finalised before she died in June. Oh, it's nice to know when you're going to die, then you could get all this stuff sorted. I'll be able to get my licence when I turn 16. So pretty self-explanatory. Okay, what's not self-explanatory? Oh, there we go, look. All right. 16. It'd be better if the red things were inside the black spaces where they're meant to be. Adverbial phrases or clauses. Sort the adverbial phrases from the adverbial clauses. After Jane said goodbye, very lacked while he watered. I can't read any of this. It's all sort of nonsense. Okay. I think we'll just let this happen because I can't read any of it. So adverbial phrases, very late, with great silence. None of them had verbs and subjects. After Jane said, so you've got a verb there, she said, and Jane is the subject. He watered, he saw. So they all make perfect sense. Adverbial clauses. Adverbial clauses function in the same way as adverbs. The clause modifies a verb, adjective, or another adverb. Observe how it modifies each of these in the sentences below. Heston, weird name, ran incredibly quickly as if he were a flash of lightning. Here the adverbial clause modifies the adverb quickly. The crowd could become boisterous if Manchester United don't score a goal. In this sentence, the adjective boisterous is modified. The cyclists careened through the streets as though they were out of control. Here the verb careened is modified by the adverbial clause. Adverbial clauses add more information to dependent clauses. They are attached to independent clauses after being joined by a subordinated conjunction. Adverbial clauses affecting verbs are movable and can be placed at the beginning or end of a sentence. If you practice every day, you will become adept at playing the saxophone. But please don't, because the saxophone sounds absolutely terrible. If you want that kind of noise, then just stand on a cat's throat. Notice how you can shift the adverbial clause to the end of the sentence. You will become adept at playing the saxophone if you practice every day. Poor cat. Punctuation. Pay close attention to the rules regarding adverbial clauses and commas. Use a comma if you place the adverbial clause at the beginning of the sentence. If the adverbial clause comes after the independent clause, no comma is necessary. While Summer brushed her hair, Robert prepared a scrumptious breakfast. No one talks like this. The crowd went completely silent when she started to sing. Okay. Oh, God. Identify the adverbial clauses. This just goes on and on. I don't know how many pages this is. Okay. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Okay, that doesn't really work. Good. Types of adverbial clauses. Oy. Adverbial clauses answer questions about the verb. They inform us more about an action, answering the questions of how, why, when, where, and to what degree, and under what conditions, etc. There are various types of adverb, the most common being time, place, manner. I'm not pressing anything now, it's doing it all by itself.